I'm Amy.
I'm Wendell.
And I'm Patrick.
And
this is
Yes,
But Why?
Podcast.
I grew up in Sugar Land, Texas, outside of Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know it?
I do know it. I actually did a like an improv show on the steps of Town Hall one time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For what?
I knew some improvisers in Houston. Like there was a group in Houston that I used to do a bunch of work with, and I always felt like Houston was super close, so there was no reason not to be there often. And also my husband lived there when we first dated, so it was long distance. So I was in Houston a lot. Anyway, I went and did some improv with this group, and this group, one of the girls worked for the like city council or like mayor's office or something of Sugar Land, and they had recently like redone this like plaza area right near the town hall. There were like new shops, and it was like gonna be a fun new place for people to hang out, and so they had entertainment on the front steps. So there were like a couple guys with guitars, and then like a few of us did some improv, and it was very much not the right audience for it, but whatever, we did it anyway. And that was the only time that's what I associate with Sugar Land.
Yeah, I feel like most people in Sugar Land would probably not even really be familiar with what improv is.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't know.
It's a newer art form, I would say. Yeah, it has to be explained to a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess outside of this world, maybe people aren't as familiar. I don't know. But yeah, Sugar Land's a funny place. Are you from Texas originally?
I'm not. I'm from Boston, actually.
Cool.
Yeah, I grew up north in a town just outside of sort of the city of Boston, a suburb thereof. But I went to college in Dallas. That's what brought me to Texas. And then I kind of did Dallas for a little while, and then went to New York because I thought that was the right thing to do as an actor. And then I was like, that's all right. I had a good time, but I didn't really nothing was cooking. So I came back to Texas, and it seems good now. Yeah. Then when I came to Austin, Dallas wasn't much. Dallas was all right. It's where I went to college, but it really wasn't much to do theater wise. I've talked to some people in Dallas recently who have told me about certain parts of the scene that I did not know. And I was like, ooh, this sounds fun. But at the time, I was not well connected to it. So I moved to Austin because some of my girlfriends were here, and got into improv as soon as I got here. Did you do improv when you were in Austin?
I didn't really do improv. I went to one improv workshop, like an all-day workshop with Tom Booker. I did that at the Institution? No.
Yeah, Institution. Yeah.
Institution Theater? Yeah, I did that. Huh. And that's the only improv I ever did in Austin. And then when I moved to LA, I did UCB 101 class. And that's also all I did of that.
Huh. How did you get to Austin?
I went to college there at St. Edward's University. The little liberal arts school there, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you get a theater degree?
No. I changed my major so many times. It took me a while to find my confidence with theater and acting. I certainly thought about it, and I think maybe for a minute it was what I was listing as my major, and then I quickly changed it. But I ended up with sociology as my degree, and with a minor in German.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do a
Yeah.
project on something sociological and German?
No, my big thesis was, it's such a dark topic, really. Female genital mutilation was my thesis. I know.
I was like that too. When I was in college, I was in a theater major, and our final project, like our thesis, was directing a play. And we got to pick the play, and then we had to write a paper on the play, and then we did the play. And I picked this dark play about torture and the Chilean overthrow of the government in like the 90s, and it was dark and terrible.
Wow.
And the girl that I had playing the woman who was tortured never did theater again. Like it was
too
traumatic, intense experience. And
it was too much
yeah,
for her.
that's
Wow.
what happens. So when you're a senior in college and you're asked to do a project, we're all trying to do something dark and intense. We're like new adults.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, that's what I did. Wow, we have a lot in common.
It just feels like, especially too when you're creative, and it's interesting that you didn't embrace your creativity right away, but like it's like you feel like you have something to prove in a way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's why I was super into, because like any play where there's torture, love it. And I don't know why. There's just something about it. There's just something about examining those sort of terrible emotions that I found super interesting when it came to like directing a play. I never acted in any of these plays. Poor actors, what I put them through. But like, I loved them and I liked examining the ideas. So I would just direct these plays. And for a few years in my like early 20s when I was doing plays and stuff, there was a lot of dark stuff. But it's like, you just got to be an adult. Right after you, quote, become an adult, you, like, go to college, which is a super safe little, like, preparatory for adulthood. And then you, like, get to do a project or multiple projects that, like, show off you as a serious adult. You're like, I get it. The world's tough. I'm going to show you how I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm, like, way less
nailed
intense
it.
now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, now I'm like,
Yeah.
it's all right. Yeah, governments, sometimes they're overthrown. It's just what happens. Like, it's terrible. It's terrible. But you get older and you get complacent. But no, I think it's interesting that would be something that you would write a paper on and do a whole thesis on. And one follow-up to that, and I promise I'll get off the topic. Is there a lot of female genital mutilation in Germany?
Was there a lot?
Yeah, like, did Germany work its way into your paper at all?
No, but so I studied abroad in Germany for a little over a semester. Well, it was longer than a U.S. semester. So I was there a little longer than what the semester was when I was here. Anyway, and one of my professors there, I also took some sociology classes when I was over there, and one of my professors, her name was Ellen Greenbaum, and she was like the expert on female genital mutilation. And so I loved this woman. She was super interesting and really quirky and very smart, but that was that was what she had written books on it. So I think I was very inspired by her, and I met her in Germany. So that played a big role in why I wrote about it, because I learned so much from her. And yet she was so cool and light and funny, even though she was dealing with this really, awful thing that happened in so many parts of the world. And she would travel all over the world, and she was part of all these organizations that would go over there and, give them, she wasn't about, I'm really getting into it, but she wasn't about, because she was a sociologist, she didn't believe you can just go in there and put your own values, place them over what people have been doing for generations and generations. So it was, a lot of her work was going over there and giving them proper tools, clean tools, sanitary ways to do it, or less harmful ways, as like a step in the direction of eventually trying to end these practices. So she was just really fascinating, and I think that's why I also became very fascinated.
Yeah,
and,
wow, what
and
a wonderful...
raged a bit too,
Yeah. Man, what a wonderful person to have met. And how interesting that you say she was so easy breezy when she had to deal with such a tough thing.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, she was really a special lady. I'm saying was. She's still around.
Yeah. You just don't chat with her that often.
Haven't seen her in a while, but.
So when I met you in Austin, you seemed pretty well established in the acting world. What got you from, sociology major, defending a thesis on genitalia mutilation to, maybe I'll be an actor? It sounds like it probably wasn't the improv class, but tell me what it was.
No. No, I always wanted to be an actor, always, since I was really little. And I did do some theater when I was a kid. My mom would drive me to the Town and Country Playhouse in Town and Country in Houston. And I took classes there with a woman named Barbara Lassiter, and then I became part of the Young People's Acting Company there for a couple seasons, and we put on plays, and that's where I learned about the theater. So I did that from the time I was I maybe started when I was 10 or 11 and did it till I was about 13, so just a couple of years. But then stopped in high school, didn't do anything in high school, didn't do anything in college. And then it was after college that I started getting back into it and taking classes and that kind of thing. So it just, I always wanted to do it. I watched movies like crazy when I was a little girl, and I wanted to tell stories like that too. But it was just one of those things. I lived in Sugar Land, Texas, and I don't think I certainly dreamt big, but it wasn't really fostered in a big way when I was young. My mom took me to classes, so they certainly, said, okay, you're interested in this, you want to do it. But I was kind of a chubby little girl. I just don't think that I felt like I could really, really do it. And then I just wasn't very confident, so I stopped doing it in high school and in college.
So then what happened? Like, what was the thing? What happened? What day was it that you changed your mind? Was there a class? Was there a person? What was the thing?
I remember the day I made a phone call to an acting teacher. So what happened, I got out of college and I had to immediately, get a job, start making a living. And I did get a job at it was a girls' home in North Austin. I think it was called Home of the Heart or something like that. But it was a part-time job at this girls' home. But it was in line with my degree, I got my sociology degree. I also took a lot of social work classes, so it was a job in that world, working with young girls. And when I told my parents about it, my mom said, it's a part-time job. You can't make a living with a part-time job. And then my aunt worked for this eyewear company in Austin, and she said, well, we would offer her a full-time job here doing kind of clerical work. And so I felt I felt guilty, and so I ended up doing that instead. So I didn't take the job at Home of the Heart, and I went to work for this online eyewear company that was run out of a farmhouse in the hill country of Austin. Very random. Yeah, it was very interesting. And so I started doing that. And it was through working at this online eyewear company in a farmhouse outside of Austin in the hill country that when I would be trying on, people would upload their photos, and I would fit glasses onto their pictures and send it back to them to help them figure out what kind of glasses they wanted. I realized that is not what I wanted to do, and it made me think real hard about what I did want to do. And so I knew I always wanted to be an actor. So I looked up some classes, and I called the teacher, and I was very nervous when I talked to her, and I said, I don't know, I've always wanted to be an actress, and I did some acting when I was young, and I don't know, and I think I just need to try, and do you think this class would be right for me? And I haven't done it in a long time. And she just very calmly went, sweetie, if you don't try, you're never going to know, and you could regret it for the rest of your life. She was very dramatic.
Yeah.
And so I went for it. And it was a great decision.
Note to all people selling classes. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
What was the name of this acting teacher? Who was your first acting teacher? Or adult acting teacher?
Mona Lee is her name.
Really?
She's there. Yeah. Do you know her?
I do. Mona Lee of the BriteLites studio?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, fun. I'm so glad. I have taught improv workshops to children at the BriteLites studio. She'll hire me occasionally to teach an improv section. If she's doing like a week workshop with some kids, I'll come in and just do like an afternoon improv thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So, but I've only worked with her with kids. So what sort of adult classes did you take from her?
She has all kinds of classes there.
Oh, yeah, totally.
This was just a pretty basic acting scene class. She would partner us up, and we would do scenes and put them up in front of the class and then get feedback. And I think I probably did, an on-camera class to learn what that was like and see yourself on camera. And then we would do just like a basic scene class. And she taught a lot of Uta Hagen's series and had us read her book. So that was my introduction to Uta Hagen, was through Mona Lee. So yeah, she was great. She was a very encouraging and tough teacher. I remember her being tough on me as well.
Yeah, she doesn't take any guff. Not one bit.
No, she doesn't. And
Nope.
She really tells people what she thinks.
Yeah.
I remember she told me a few things that kind of, they hit and they hurt, but, I took them and I did what I would do with those notes, those harsh notes. I remember though one time there was a kid and he was up there and she was asking him, well, why do you want to be an actor? And he had a real thick Texas Southern accent. He was like, well, I don't remember what he said about why he wanted to be an actor. And she was like, okay, well, you have to get rid of this accent. Your accent is you need to get some tapes and help neutralize your accent. It's just it's too strong, and you're only going to ever be cast in roles of Southern, rednecks if you can't get rid of that accent. He's like, okay. And then she said, and you need to get educated, honey. You need to read some books and learn some more stuff because actors cannot be dumb. And I will never forget that. I was like, whoa, she just told him to get educated, which, you know, is not wrong. I mean, you do need to know things, I guess, to be an actor.
Yeah,
depending on the kind of actor. I mean, there's so many, you know, there's people do all kinds of stuff. So, but
I
yeah,
don't know. You
being
still
educated.
need to know something to be an actor. You're playing somebody else that's not you. You need to at least know something about them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you're working as a garbage guy, you got to know how garbage guys work.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, let's be honest. One thing that I feel like I've been talking about this a lot, and maybe it's on the podcast, maybe it's not. Hard to tell. But I was talking about how in film there's a lot of sitting around. Like, I hope you like books, or if you have a couple good games on your phone, because it's going to be 3 or 4 hours before anyone's going to talk to you.
Figuring out what to do with that time and how to spend that time has been a real journey for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it breaks some people. Like, it really makes them not want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I mean, you've heard it before that acting is, and film acting and TV acting, it's not glamorous. It really isn't. There's a lot of sitting around, and a lot of sitting around alone, like in your trailer by yourself, and weird hours, getting up really early in the morning and then not getting home till really late at night, or working through the night. I mean, you gotta really want to do it.
Yeah. And
you have to have some idea of how you, I mean, I guess you figure it out, but how you work in that sort of environment. But when I was working on Vice Principals in Charleston, South Carolina, that was the longest I was ever on any project, really. You know, we shot it over 6 months on and off, and I was there a lot, and it was a lot of time in my trailer, especially at first when I didn't know people. I would just sit in there, and it was like I would bring a backpack full of journals and books, and I would have a playlist ready to go to listen to music, and I just brought so many things to, you know, because my character didn't talk a whole lot on the show, so it wasn't like I had lines and lines and lines to be learning and going through, so I really had to just keep myself in kind of a creative headspace, but a relaxed headspace, but, you know, it was interesting.
Yeah. You know, you talk about the idea, too, of, like, how you do your acting. Like, how do you figure out what your character is? Now, do you think that you developed the technique that you use now when you worked with Mona Lee, or is it an amalgam of other classes that you've taken, and how did that come together for you?
Yeah, I think it's an accumulation, a mix of all of it. She was my first acting teacher, well, when I came back to it after college, and then I learned a lot with her, but I think who I refer to the most, or the work that I refer to the most, would be the work I did in Laurel Vouvray's class. Are you familiar with Laurel Vouvray in Austin?
I think so. Tell me about her. Perhaps I am.
Yeah, she teaches the Meisner technique.
Meisner, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know a few people that take that class.
Yeah, and her studio is called In the Moment Acting Studio. And I think, to this day, I think she's just the greatest teacher I've ever had. I learned so much with her, and through the Meisner technique, but learning it from her specifically, it was just really incredible. So she really had she had the biggest impact on me by far, even still. But then also, I got to work in so many independent films in Austin, so I learned a lot just by doing and by working, and then since being out here, I've studied with several different people, and I don't believe one thing works better than the other. I think as we were talking about before, being educated, and you have to be educated, and to me, that just means having experience and life experience. I think you have to make sure you have an interesting life and have a lot of different kind of experiences to take from and learn from. And I think the same thing about different methodologies and different kinds of acting techniques. I think there's something to be taken from all of them, and you take what works for you out of each one. And I think for me, I just kind of have developed and am still developing my way of working, and it's different every time. I don't really have one way or one trick or anything that I go to when I take on a project or a character. It's always kind of different because there's so many different kinds of, it's like if I'm working on a sitcom for an episode or two, or I'm working on a movie for a month and a half, depending on the tone and what the story is and, all that, it's always so different. So
when you do those kinds of things, when you do smaller parts in a larger situation, how much of the full script do you get? Like, how much do you really know of your involvement in the whole situation?
That also depends. Sometimes they'll at least, I think I probably always get the entire episode. If I get the job, I will get the script for the full episode. So that will be helpful. But if it's a new show that's not out yet and I have that one script, but that's all I have, it's still, you kind of have to put the pieces together yourself and sort of guess like what has happened before this episode and where it might be going, and the role that you're playing. You have to fill in your own blanks and figure it out for yourself. And hopefully you have a director who is open and willing to answer questions for you. But yeah, and then if it's a show that's already on, I'll usually, but I don't really watch TV, but I'll go and look up the show and I'll watch some episodes of the show so I know what's happening on the show. And yeah.
I like the TV for you is just research. Like, that's super fun.
Some people really think it's very strange. My boyfriend is always like, she's an actress who works on TV and doesn't watch TV. That's not completely true, though.
I mean, you know what, though? I find it difficult sometimes to, like, to put the same influences in my, like, fun relaxation time as my work time. So, like, I teach improv comedy, and I usually teach 101 classes, which means I'm talking about comedy in a, like, super analytical way, because I need to convince people that it's a manageable thing that they can do. That's kind of what 101 classes are about. They're like, hey, you're going to be okay. Let me explain to you the silly mechanism of your brain that's going to make comedy work. And so I break it down so much that I have a hard time watching comedy because I see the pieces. I see the, like, format. Like, a show, if I watch a comedy show, it better be super complicated to the point where I am so involved in the plot that I'm not following the beats. Like, I can't watch regular sitcoms because I'll be like, oh my God, like, I literally feel the rhythm of the jokes and I can't get out of it. Like, I can't enjoy, oh, look at this. This was good. Like, the only sitcom that I have really been able to get into, even though I could totally feel the rhythm of the jokes, was the new version. There's a new Netflix One Day at a Time. There was a show that they made, and that was an old show from, like, the 70s, but they remade it on Netflix. Yeah. And I watched it because I saw the old show and wanted to see this. Totally got into it. Fell in love with the characters and got totally involved. And I was about a season and a half in before I realized I wasn't following along and being like, ah, yes, he mentioned this. He's going to mention it again. Oh, wait, let's wait for the third one. There we go. Like, little things like that. Like,
Yeah.
so it can be hard, you know, it's not crazy that you wouldn't want to consume in your downtime the stuff that you're doing as your job.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's totally true. I think, yeah, you nailed it. And I think I have a hard time sitting still sometimes. And also, I think it's all the times. There are so many shows right now, and
Yep.
there are so many ways to watch them, and I think I'm just honestly overwhelmed by it all.
Mm-hmm.
And if I watched every show that someone told me was incredible and amazing and you have to watch it, I mean, I don't know how anyone has that kind of time to watch all these things. And I get overwhelmed. But, you know, because I used to watch more, I think, before it became such a thing. I watched all of 6 Feet Under, and I loved that show. I mean, that was such an incredible show. It's still one of my favorite shows I've ever watched. And
Yeah.
I really like the mini-series, kind of like the short series where there will be like four longer episodes. Those are a little more doable for me. I watched Olive Kittredge a couple years ago with Frances McDormand on HBO. I think that was like a 4-part miniseries, and I thought that was incredible.
British shows and and European shows are like that, where they do like 4 episodes and it's a complete story and it's over. It's a lot easier to like get through.
Yeah, they're like long movies, and I love movies. But TV, the shows now, they are also like movies, very long movies, which is why I think you see so many really well-known big actors doing them, because their characters that they're playing have such incredible arcs, and they get to be working in this world, in this story for so long. And I don't know what actor that's not really appealing to. You know, it's like, that's really awesome. So
yeah, totally.
I get it. But there's so much. I just don't know what to do with it all. And I like to read, and so sometimes I'll be watching something, and I'm like, I just need to read. I need to read a book or write in my journal or something. I'm a little bit boring sometimes, but...
Well, you know, I have a couple questions about, so when you moved to, you've been talking about actors finding characters that they're, you know, into, and they want to play something for a little while and do these like mini movies and stuff. I feel like, I was going to mention that I feel like the landscape of what there is out there offered to people is different, because what used to be considered like a web series that like, oh, a web series, and it had a like less of a cachet than say a television series. There's so many apps and so many different things that it means different things now. Like there are different, like if you got yourself a Hulu original series, that'd be killer. Like if you're on a Netflix show, yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Like these are different kinds of vibes now, and so things are being created in different ways, but I don't work in it directly. You do. Mm-hmm. Tell me, from when you got to LA and you got an agent, how are jobs coming at you? Like what kind of things do people talk about? And it can be stuff that you do or people that you know do. Like, what do you think, what sort of shows are happening in the industry now? Like, what opportunities are there out there that you're having that maybe your friends are having?
Yeah, I think there are just so many. And I can't really, like you're saying, web series used to mean such a different thing than it means now. I used to, if I would see a web series with casting or someone would say something about a web series, I would kind of be like, oh, web series, that's just, you know, a sad excuse for, I don't know what, I judged a web series, you know, I didn't like the idea of a web series. And now there are like award-winning web series, because kind of isn't everything the web now in a way? Every way that you watch anything that comes onto your TV, if you don't have regular old basic cable, it is all through the internet in some way, is it not? I mean, I think And so I almost feel like everything is a web series. I see a lot of Amazon shows being cast out here. I go out for those. I've gone out for YouTube Red shows.
Oh,
I've even heard of Facebook. I've heard of Facebook shows through a Facebook. And they're legitimate. When you look at the creators of the shows and you look who's making them and who's working on them, they're all working, talented, legitimate people and in the industry making these things. So it's just kind of everywhere. Everything seems to be a platform or becoming a platform if it wasn't already. So I went out for, now there's the Paramount Network, which at first was TV Land, but then they changed it to the Paramount Network. And so I see a lot of that happening. Older networks or older, I call them channels. I call everything a channel. Like that channel is now, I see them sort of changing over and they're rebranding to be more appealing, and then they're changing the kinds of shows that they're creating.
Yeah, like ABC Family is Freeform now.
Yeah, that exactly. I see that, a lot of that, and then you'll see WB, but then WB has all these different other branches. I mean, I hear of something new every week. I feel like I'll talk to a friend and I'll say, "Oh, I'm creating a show for this," and I'm like, "What's that?" And it sounds like a pretty big deal for them. So But
does that mean that there are more opportunities out there for you? I know everybody's individual journey is different, whether you're busy or not busy, doesn't mean the whole industry, but do you feel like there's a lot of opportunities out there?
I do. Of course. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities out here. There are tons of opportunities out here. And I am fortunate that I get to go out for quite a few of these things. But I do feel more and more, as I was saying before, you've got all of these. I think TV used to be a way for lesser known actors like myself to sort of get a chance to go and play a meatier role than you would probably get the opportunity to in films. And now those roles are going to the big stars also. So I do feel that for sure. I feel I don't go out for lots of big parts on shows or lead roles. I still continue to go out for a lot of the smaller parts.
Yeah.
And when I do get the opportunity to go out for a bigger role, I don't like being negative about it, but I pretty much always know, like, they're not going to give, even if I go in and do a great job, more likely than not, they're going to give it to somebody who's better known or, so I always know that. So I look at them as opportunities just to go show what I can do, and hopefully maybe they'll call me back later on, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, when you are going out for stuff, like, are you encountering the same casting directors? Is there like a circuit of casting directors that you are getting to know?
Yeah, there are. I certainly see a lot of the same casting directors. A fellow named Seth Yankelwit has cast me now in 2 projects, which is really wonderful. The folks who cast me in Vice Principals, they see me for things. So I do get called back, and people ask for me. So that's really nice. I mean, that's really, really nice,
Yeah.
And I'm also meeting new casting directors still. I go in quite often for somebody who I've never met before. So that happens too.
How many years have you been living in LA now?
Oh man, over 5.5.
Yeah.
I've almost 6 years.
Yeah. Because I was going to be I was going to say 7, but then I was like, no. Because I think I met you right after I moved to Austin. I was maybe 2 years in Austin when we did those commercials. So that's, I think, when we met. And I've been here now for like 9 years. So that's why I was like maybe 7, but yeah, right on. Wow. So do you feel like you're like, you've been there long enough that you've got a place in your community? Like, do you do live theater stuff, or are you mostly just auditioning for TV and film? And, you know, how has it been settling in a new and super intense world?
Yeah, it's so in the community sense, it's so different from Austin.
Oh yeah,
and you know, and that's something I really miss that. I of course have I have dear friends here, and a lot of them are friends from Austin, which also says a lot about Austin, you know, that we all kind of came and found each other and created our own little community here with each other. But you know, I do a lot of auditioning and waiting around for things, a lot more than I did in Austin, I think. I did more theater in Austin. I haven't really done any theater out here or any stage stuff. This week I did do a live reenactment of the Ford Kavanaugh. Is hearing the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did do that where the women, they had women play the men's roles and men play the women in an attempt to kind of show if women were behaving the way men were behaving that day, that it wouldn't be, you know, it feels like they would be taken out in a straitjacket sort of thing.
Yeah.
But so that was a live performance that I did. But that's really it. I don't do a lot of live stuff out here. Yeah. And I would love to. That's something I would really like to change. But that's been part of my journey out here for sure, living out here now about 5.5 years and really playing the game and being in the game of auditioning and all of that. I've realized how much I just love acting and love the work, and how that's not really satisfying for me anymore, just going in and reading for things and then waiting around. And so I hope my next chapter, I guess, will involve a lot more live theater and things like that, because I'm really itching for that. I just want to do the work because I love the work and for the experiences, you know, and for really connecting with people. So that's something I hope more. I hope that happens a lot more in my next 5 years if I'm out here that much longer, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have been pretty focused since you got there. How did you get an agent, or did you get an agent before you left Austin, or how does that work?
Well, yeah, it works differently for everyone. I had a manager pull me out here, and so I auditioned for something in Austin, a bigger movie, and the director of that was dating a woman who was a head of a big management company out here. And I got called back for that movie in Austin. Vicki Boone was casting it, and I was super excited about it. And I ended up not getting the part. But I remember in the room, the director said, you know, I think you're too young for this, and I don't think you're quite right, but I really like you, and I want to find some way to help you out. And that's all he really said. And then he ended up basically showing my tapes to his girlfriend, who was this manager out here. And then I took a Skype call with her, and she had me come out here and take a meeting with her, and they ended up signing me. And so that was kind of the impetus for me to move out here.
Wow.
And then, yeah, so that was a very exciting time. It felt very glamorous. And then when I got out here, they were too big for me. And what I learned, which I think a lot of people learn, you can get really excited about signing with some big fancy company, but if you're not already sort of established, it's very hard to find one of those big companies to actually work for you. They sort of throw you out there and hope something happens kind of thing. Hope you stick, you know? And so that happened with her, and it didn't feel like a great match. So I ended up leaving them pretty early on, and I just started taking classes and things. And then a teacher that I was studying with liked the work I was doing and introduced me to an agent friend of his, and then I got signed that way. And I worked with that agent for almost 4 years out here, I'd say. And they helped me out so much. So that's how that happened. It was through classes. And that's what I tell people. People will reach out to me a lot asking me to, you know, they'll say, you seem to be doing well. Can you introduce me to agents and things? Can you recommend me? And it would just be impossible for me to do that for every person that reached out to me. But I always encourage people to, I mean, community is such a big part of it. And me being in that class and getting to know people and letting, you know, my teacher saw my work, and you just need people to see your work. And the more people you meet, it helps. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, you know, there's a lot of people that say, you know, you got to make your own thing these days. Like, you can't just, you know, you have to be out there, like you said, showing them your work, whether it be in a class where they get to see it and you get to go do a showcase for people at the end of the class or something, or, you know, you're making your own stuff, you know, whether it be like a web series or like, you know, like the people that'll do the acting exercise where they create like one character a day in like a YouTube situation. Those are fun. I feel like that's a great way to get stuff out there. I don't know how much any of those have ever helped anybody, but I feel like for the actor themselves, it's a good exercise. But but yeah, it's almost back to what back to, you know, what I believe it was Mona Lee, right, who said, be educated. Like, you need to get out there and be educated because you as an actor are a conduit to telling a story, which means you need to understand life and stories. So, like, you need to experience the world, and if the way that makes you feel comfortable to get out of the house and speak to other human beings is to take an acting class, do it. If you want to take, like, join a bowling league or, like, you know, garden at the community garden, like, whatever it is that you're out of the house and you get to, like, hang out with people and soak it up, then the next time you have to act, you've soaked up actual human behavior and that can actually help.
It's so true, and I think I mean, I haven't lived in New York, so I don't know the difference. But, you know, Los Angeles, I see people, and it's happened to me too, you can really get caught in this trap of sort of just living and breathing acting. You know, like you're in classes and you're kind of looking at what everyone else is doing, and people are telling you you need to network and telling you you need to do A, B, C, D, but then you sort of just enclose yourself in this actor land bubble, and that just quite honestly isn't very interesting for anyone else. You know, and you're not really expanding your world enough, I don't think, when you do that. And it's exactly what you're saying, like, get out and do those things that you're interested in, those other things, because you have to have these life experiences and not just be living in actor land, you know. And I have to remind myself of that all the time. I think when I first moved out here, I mean, I'm an explorer anyway. I do a lot of things by myself, and I get out and I'll just leave the house and be gone all day, roaming around. And so I do like to do that, and I'm lucky that I do, because when I first moved out here, I did get kind of stuck in the, like, okay, I need to get into class and go to these workshops and meet these people and do this thing and yada, yada, yada. And then you realize, no, I have these other interests that I'm not cultivating because I have convinced myself that this is the only thing that I do and that I should do and that it needs all my focus. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's an important lesson that I've had to learn and relearn and relearn, and I still have to sort of push myself out the door sometimes to go do something else, or to read a book about something else. And so, yeah, I think it's very, very important to live your life. I think Alan Rickman said that. I watched an interview with him, and someone said, what would you tell young actors? What kind of advice would you give them? And he was like, go out and live your life. Stop doing the acting stuff and go live your life and do things and meet people and experience, because it's only going to enrich who you are. And that's what films and TV and theater need. They need actors who are alive and, rich and have something to really offer and to say, and ways to connect with people in a real way. So yeah. I think about that a lot.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just taking it in. I'm soaking it in. What you said, you're good. Oh man, Ashley, thank you so much for chatting with me and being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for wanting to chat with me at all. I was so honored and flattered when you got in touch and said you wanted to.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I think it's really important to, sometimes reflect upon the world that we live in, and that world being people who do theater for most of their life or do creative things. You're working on mostly film and TV, but it's a very specific thing. And I think it's interesting, all the different parts, the good parts, the bad parts, the stuff you got to work on, the stuff you got to, be careful of, all the parts of the industry in all the different jobs. I think that's the interesting thing. And I want to talk to people about where they're at. And, hey, maybe in a few years after you're, elevated up and you are the hip mover and shaker that they're looking for to be the lead and stuff, we can talk again and I'll be like, hey, what happened? And you'll be all like, so Mariska Hargitay was done with SVU and they put me in. And I was like, oh.
And then it was my turn.
That's right. Get out, Olivia. I'm solving some crimes.
That would be great. I look forward to that day.
That would be wonderful. Hey, studio executives who are clearly the audience for my podcast, you should totally put Ashley into a cop show like that. Super fun. Procedural, and make sure that there's a rapper in it. Make sure.
Yeah. Well, I've done some NCIS LA, and I've been a recurring character on there. Yeah, I play, if you're familiar with the show, or if you're not, I play Nell's older sister. Oh. And, I'm Special Agent Sydney Jones. I work for Homeland Security, and
you do.
They bring me in. Yeah, they bring me in to help her when she's having a little trouble doing it on her own. So I have worked with LL Cool J. He's very nice. And I'll leave you with a little thing he told me. He said, it's one of his sayings, and I think he said he has shirts that he's gotten printed that say this, but he said, I know. He said, your ego is not your amigo. And I just really loved that. Yeah.
That is the best thing I've ever heard. I hope that there are T-shirts that say that.
Well, if I ever work on a show again, I'll ask him about it, and I'll get one and send it to you.
Oh my God, that'd be the best thing. That's so amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Oh, that's so great. Sorry, it's a second wave of joy there. Woo!
Good.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Thank you for being on the podcast and taking the time out of your evening to chat with me. And thank you for sharing your own advice and the advice others have given you. Because I feel like that really is super helpful. That one's like a solid listen all the way to the end, and you can get advice from LL Cool J.
Exactly. There's nowhere else to go from there. We have to end now. Nothing can top that.
I mean, it's pretty much, it brings together everything we've talked about. So I feel like it's a perfect end lesson.
Yeah, cool. I'm so happy about that.
Oh my God, so perfect. See, you're such a good storyteller. You even bring the podcast to a beautiful close. Look at you.
Oh, hey, anytime.
Thanks for listening to Yes But Why podcast.